Alaska, the 49th state and the last frontier. With its closest point over 500 miles from the continental United States, Alaska is a beautiful and isolated place. Running over 450 miles between Seaward and Fairbanks, Alaska, the Alaska Railroad is one of the most important infrastructure projects ever completed in the state. Construction of the Alaska Railroad was originally started in 1903 and was sold to the United States government in 1914. The railroad was finally completed in 1923 under federal government control. In 1985, the state of Alaska purchased the railroad from the federal government. For over 100 years, the Alaska Railroad has offered freight and passenger services to some of the most remote parts of Alaska. This is still the case of the modern Alaska Railroad, with Anchorage, Alaska being the center of their operations. Join us as we take a journey along the Alaska Railroad, exploring their bustling operations in Anchorage, then the beautiful line south to Seaward and Whittier. In Anchorage, you can see the greatest variety of Alaska Railroad operations. It is possible to see yard jobs, road freights, maintenance of way trains, and passenger trains all in the city. One of the first trains to depart Anchorage every morning is the Northbound Denali Star, scheduled to depart Anchorage for Fairbanks at 8:20 a.m. The train being brought down to the station is the first Northbound Denali Star of the season. The Denali Star runs between Anchorage and Fairbanks from May 11th to September 18th for the 2022 season, and we were on hand for the May 11th departure. Leading the train today was Alaska Railroad 4321, an SD70 Mack wearing the classic Alaska Railroad blue and yellow scheme. The passenger consist for the Denali Star includes a baggage car, a pair of Ultra Dome cars for Gold Star service, a counter cafe car, standard coaches, and a dome coach. With passengers loaded, the classy train departs Anchorage. North of Anchorage, we would catch the Denali Star again, this time at Eagle River. Here, they are making track speed as they roll out their first miles of the season. Back in Anchorage, we would take a sample of the action around the hub of the Alaska Railroad. Running along the Knink Arm, a southbound fill rock train heads out of Anchorage. This train is taking rocks to the southern part of the system for a bridge project that was going on during our time in Alaska. Another staple of the Alaska Railroad are their stone trains. These trains run down from Palmer to Anchorage. During a rooftop lunch, we were able to see one of these rock trains leaving the Anchorage yard heading for Anchorage Sand and Gravel. The rock trains run in a push-pull configuration with an SD70 Mac on each end of the train. This allows the railroad to shuttle a rock train down every couple days. At Anchorage Sand and Gravel, the train would shove in to unload. We found them after arriving, where we would get a view of the train shoving one of the cuts into the facility. Back in Anchorage, multiple yard jobs were working the south side of the yard. First, we watched a trio of Alaska Railroad GP40-2s make a pull, then shove back into the yard. 3001 and 3006 still wear the classic Alaska Railroad black and yellow scheme. Shortly after, we would catch the two yard jobs meeting. The first is pulling intermodal cars and flats southbound. The second is bringing a maintenance of way train into the yard. The action in Anchorage settles down for the evening with the departure of the Northbound Daily Manifest to Fairbanks and the arrival of the southbound Denali Star. The Northbound Manifest normally rates a pair of SD70 Max on the point and a DPU before the intermodal section of the train. After watching the northbound freight depart, the southbound Denali Star arrives. We were able to get ahead of the freight at Eagle River, where we took a shot of the northbound train in the rain. South of Anchorage is the line to Seaward and the split off to Whittier. This portion of the line is more heavily used for passenger trains than freight, and you can see a good variety of these trains during the cruise and tourist seasons. Starting at the far east end of the Whittier line, we caught the Glacier Discovery train coming through the Anton Anderson Memorial Tunnel. This is a one-lane shared rail and road tunnel. The Anton Anderson Memorial Tunnel serves traffic in both directions on a timed basis. Trains also run through the tunnel and take priority over vehicle traffic. In our view, we are watching the first Glacier Discovery train of the season come through the tunnel to make its stop at Whittier. The consist for this train is rather unique. It is led by a GP40-2, has a head-end power car, a baggage car, a pair of coaches, and a one-of-a-kind Ultra Dome DMU. The DMU will be used as a cab car when the train departs Whittier. For the final portion of our program, we will follow the main line between Girdwood and Anchorage. We start in Girdwood, where we have the Northbound Coastal Classic making a short station stop. While we did chase this train, we will focus on other trains filmed on different days with slightly better weather. With the tourist season starting, cruise trains were starting up and running on their non-publicly published schedules. We would catch a northbound train passing over the Indian Creek as it lets out into the Turnagain Arm. Rounding out our Alaska Railroad action, we are at Beluga Point, where the Northbound Coastal Classic is clearing under perfect late evening light. Rolling out their final miles into Anchorage, we got ahead of the Coastal Classic just south of town. Here we got a great view of the mountains behind the train on a straight stretch of track. As we waited for the Coastal Classic to arrive in Anchorage just after 10 p.m., a yard job is seen working the south end of the yard with the maintenance of way train. We would get a beautiful shot of the Alaska Railroad Jeep under the setting sun. Arriving just after 10:15 p.m. into Anchorage, we would get our last shot of the Coastal Classic as they pulled into the depot. With the arrival of the Coastal Classic, our overview of the Alaska Railroad is complete. The Alaska Railroad is one of the most remote railroads in the world, with hundreds of miles of mainline in a beautiful setting. The Alaska Railroad can be very active if your timing is correct, and will keep any rail fan busy and entertained. Thank you for watching. We hoped you enjoyed our overview of the Alaska Railroad in and around Anchorage. If you liked this video, do not forget to subscribe for future rail fanning trips and videos.